Hello and welcome back. I'm Joseph Hoffman, and today we are hitting a pretty important milestone. You're going to be learning your first sonatina. Wow! Wait, what's a sonatina? Oh, a sonatina is a special kind of musical piece which is longer than any kind of piece we've learned so far. Wow! Most often, a sonatina has three major sections called movements. Each movement is like its very own piece, but the three movements all put together make the full sonatina. It's kind of like a trilogy. A trilogy? A trilogy is a series of 3 books or movies, all part of the same story. Oh, right, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I love Gandalf. You shall not pass. Oh, and Star Wars. Do you mean the original trilogy? That's the only one I choose to acknowledge. So, a sonatina is a kind of musical trilogy made up of 3 movements. Traditionally, these movements follow a pattern: fast, slow, fast. The first movement is most often a lively allegro tempo. Then, for contrast, the second movement is slow, maybe an adagio or andante. Then, to end with a lot of excitement, the third movement is fast again, sometimes allegro or vivace, or to go really fast, a composer may choose presto or prestissimo. I love prestissimo! Want to watch me run prestissimo? Prestissimo power activate! Today, we'll be learning the A section of the first movement of Sonatina in C by Muzio Clementi. Let's get started by checking out the score. Here's the score for the A section of the first movement of Clementi's Sonatina in C. What do we always check when we come to a new piece? Well, on my checklist, I always want to see how fast I should be playing this. Here with our tempo indication, we know it's going to be allegro, which is exactly what we would expect for the first movement of a sonatina. Then I'm going to check my clefs, treble and bass, no surprise. Then I want to look and see if there's a key signature, which would usually come right after the clefs, before the time signature. Well, I don't see any sharps or flats, so what key would that put us in? We know that would be C major or possibly A minor, but since the title of the piece is Sonatina in C, that's a pretty big clue. We're going to be in C major, no sharps or flats in the key signature. Next up, we come to our time signature, and whoa, here's something new. This is a new kind of time signature called cut time. So let's take a second to explore what cut time means. So to back up a little bit, there are a lot of symbols that have evolved over the years in music. One symbol that used to be used commonly, but isn't used much anymore, is actually called common time, and they would just mark it as a C. So when you see a C, sometimes in older pieces of music composed a couple hundred years ago, you might see a big capital C like this. It might look a little fancy with a little dot there. Just know that that means common time, which stands for 4/4. Now, another symbol that was used a lot back in the day of like Mozart and his friends was called cut time. And cut time is really a symbol for 2/2. Remember, another way to think about time signature is the top number tells you how many beats in each measure. The bottom number tells you what kind of note you're counting as a beat. So you could think of 4/4, or common time, as 4 quarter note beats per measure. So what does 2/2 mean? You could think of that as 2 half note beats per measure. Let's look at an actual example of this. In 4/4, how would we count this? We'd say 1, 2, 3, 4. Each quarter note equals 1 beat, 4 quarter note beats. How many beats does a half note get? 1, 2, 3, 4. Each half note gets 2 beats. And how many beats does the whole note get? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what if we're in cut time, which remember we could have written as 2, 2. Notice that with 2, 2, we can have the exact same rhythm. Because when we have 2 half note beats per measure, we essentially can fit this exact same notes in every measure as before. We're just counting it differently now. Now it's the half note that gets 1 beat. One half note gets 1 beat all to itself. And so quarter notes are now kind of like eighth notes. This would have to be 1 and 2 and. And this whole note would get only 2 beats, 1, 2. Well, why on earth would a composer do that? Why couldn't they just call that 4/4? Well, the reason is sometimes a composer wants the song to feel faster. Remember, if you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, that's going to feel slower than if you go 1 and 2 and 1, 2, 1, 2. So generally, a composer will pick cut time even though it literally can look exactly the same as 4/4. Why is it cut time, you might ask? It's basically because all the values get cut in half. Whatever was 2 beats before is now just 1 beat. If you were 4 beats before, now you're 2 beats. Everything is cut in half. So cut time. If you ever see cut time in a piece, you can pretty much expect that is going to be a fast movement or piece. But when you're learning it, you can pretend that you're in 4/4 as you're learning it at a slower speed and then switch to cut time when you're ready to play it at the full speed. So when we're first learning Sonatina in C, even though we're in cut time, we're going to pretend we're in 4/4 time and just think 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. But eventually we're going to be going fast enough that we'll only feel a beat here, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, and feel those 2 beats per measure. But again, at first when we're learning it, we'll just pretend we're in 4/4, and then eventually we'll make the switch to cut time when we're ready to speed it up. Now it's time to do some analysis. I love to analyze my music before I learn to play it because I learn it so much faster when I do that. I'd like you to take a moment to pause and download and print out your own copy, because in your own music, I'd like you to identify some chords and scales that we see in the music. Now, I'm going to draw a box around a few chords or scales that I'd like you to identify. Now, in your own music, will you draw a box around these first 4 notes in the treble staff? And then I'd like you to figure out, think of all of these notes as one chord. Because if you take these notes and put them all together, you'll find they form a chord that you know. So let's try this first one together. Let's see, this first note is a C, and then we have an E, and we have another C, and so that we've already counted that one, so I'll just ignore that one for now, and then we have a G. Now, if we put those 3 notes together, C, E, and G, does that form a chord that you know? You said a C major chord, you're correct. And the symbol for a C major chord is just a capital C. So in your own music, let's draw a box around these notes and mark a C. So you notice on our piano, we would have a C, E, and then this G is actually below. So it's not a root position C major, which would be this. We've actually taken the G and put it on the bottom. So it's actually a C major second inversion chord. Now, on your own, I'd like you to pause the video and figure out what's going on in each of these boxes. Sometimes it will be a chord, and sometimes, like these notes here, it will be a scale. And if you see a scale, figure out, is this a pentascale? Is it a 1-octave scale? And try and identify what's happening inside each of these boxes. If you can, give it a name, do it. And then press play, and we'll check out the answers together. Okay, in this box we have another C, E, and G, so that makes a C major chord. And once again, it's in second inversion. Then what did you get in this box? This is actually a C major pentascale, and I'll put a little PS for pentascale because we start here on this G and then we just come down those 5 notes. Our good old C major pentascale. What did you get for this box? Now we have a D steps down to C, B, A, G. And that makes our G major pentascale. All right? And what did you see in this box? It's another C major chord. What about here? Let's look at it together. We had an E, a G, another E, and then a C. And that makes a C major chord, this time in root position. Now, see how, if we take the time to do this, now we've figured out most of the first 2 lines. We've got this repeating note here, but all this is C major chord, a C major pentascale, a couple notes going back and forth, and then a G major pentascale, then another C chord, and then some other stuff that we'll figure out. So we've really simplified these first 2 lines this way. Let's come to the piano and try playing it. All right, so let's use this analysis that we just did to help us learn this. We know that in the first measure, we've got this C major second inversion chord. So here's my middle C. On your piano, can you find and play this second inversion C major chord as a block? And then you'll know that we have the notes all ready to go for the first 2 measures. Now your turn. Good, then after that, we come up the octave to this G, and then, so I'd like you to pause the video and practice measures 1 through 4. Note there in measure 3 how we had to cross over finger 3 to this B, there on beat 3, and that puts us in kind of this G major pentascale, which takes us through into measure 4. So pause the video, work on measures 1 through 4, then press play to go on. Now, as you're learning this, I encourage you to think not just about the right notes and the right rhythms, of course, but also the dynamics and the slurs and staccati. So we've got a forte and then 2 staccatos at the end of that first measure. Remember, when you have a staccato, don't hammer it. Use a nice light lift in the wrist to make that a crisp, clean sound. Now you try. Good, and then notice how in measures 3 and 4 we have this long phrase mark or slur mark. So you want to make it legato and smooth, make it a phrase. Then going on to measure 5, what do you notice about these notes? Does it look familiar? That's right, this is the same as measure 1, except this time it's piano. Your turn. Then, what happens in measure 6? Remember from our analysis, this is another C major chord, this time in root position. So come up and play this blocked chord, and now you have the right notes for measure 6. Your turn. Good. So putting that together with measure 5, we have. Now you try. Pause the video if you need more time to work on that. Otherwise, let's go on. And starting here on the last beat of measure 6, I'd like you to look at the next 5 beats and tell me if you can find the pattern. What's happening here? The pattern is simply, we start on E, skip down a third, step up, 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 skip down. So it makes this cool little pattern. And then we'll end on the first note of measure 8. Now, that pattern, of course, we're not going to be able to play it like this because our left hand's doing something else. So we're going to use, of course, a more mature fingering. And I want you to follow the fingering exactly as you see in the score. It asks for 4, 2, 3, 1. Let's try just those first 4 notes. Your turn. Go. Good. So we have 4, 2, 3, 1, and then finger 4 is going to scoot down to C, and we do the same thing again. 4, 2, 3, 1. So now with 4 on C, try this. 4, 2, 3, 1. Your turn. Then we're going to scoot finger 4 down again to A this time. 4, 2 on F sharp. Then finger 1 is going to come under to G for the first note of measure 8. Okay? Now, I'd like you to practice it this way. Do it in groups of 4, starting on E, 4, 2, 3, 1, then pause and prepare. Finger 4 comes to C. 4, 2, 3, 1, pause and prepare. 4 slides over to A. 4, 2, 1 on G. Pause the video and practice that with the pause after each group of 4 notes to just glide your finger 4 down to the next position, and then press play to go on. Now, once you can do it in groups of 4, you'll just put it all together without a pause. 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 1. So now it's your turn. Try pausing the video one more time and just put this all together without a pause. And then press play and we'll keep going. Let's do a little more analysis for the second half of this A section. I'm going to draw a box around a few more things that I'd like you to analyze on your own. Again, it might be a scale, it might be a chord. Your job is to figure it out. So I'd like you to figure that out. Here's a few more. Okay, pause the video and on your own, can you analyze what's happening inside each of these boxes? Try and give it a name. And then press play and we'll look at it together. Okay, what is happening inside this box? We start on a G and it's a whole bunch of notes stepping up. How many notes? In fact, if you count them, it's 8 notes going from G to G with that F sharp in there. Do you recognize that? That is our G major 1 octave scale. So I'll just write G scale for short. A G major 1 octave scale. Why do we practice scales and chords and inversions? It's because music is made up of those elements so often. Those are the building blocks of music. Now, I didn't draw a box around this one, but you'll notice it looks very similar to this, except we're going from B to B, but it's still just this 1 F sharp. So it also is a G major scale, but just starting on B, the third note of the scale. So it's kind of like going from mi to mi instead of do to do. Now, what did you get for this box? We have a D, a G, a B, and then another D. Now in chords, if you have repeated notes, we can just ignore one of them. I'm going to ignore this one on the bottom because I can see with this G, B, D, now we're in a root position and we can identify that as a G major chord. Why would this not be D major? Well, because of this fourth, we can tell that's not root position. A D major chord would look like this. But in G major, we can put that D on the bottom for an inversion or put it on the bottom and on the top to make this G major arpeggio. So here we have a G major arpeggio, which starts on D, and then we start stepping down. And then what did we get here? We have D, C, B, A, G. 5 notes stepping down. That's our G major pentascale. Now real quick, let's look at a few other things. Here we have a pretty big interval. Can you figure out the interval from this note to this note? This is an octave. We go from an A all the way up to ledger line A, one skip above that flag F line, A to A. That's an octave. And then what about this interval here? It's another octave. We go from C, treble C, all the way up to high C on second ledger line of treble clef. Let's come to the piano and try playing this. So starting in measure 8, we get this G major scale, then we go to A, up the octave. Now we've got these 3 staccati with our finger 5 on this A. Remember, when you play with your finger 5, don't play it flat, don't karate chop. Play near the tip with a nice lift in your wrist. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you try. And then going on to measure 10, we've got this G major scale, but this time starting on B. And then in measure 11, we've got this octave again, 3 staccati. So all together, starting at measure 8. Pause the video and work on measures 8 through 11, then press play when you're ready to go on. Now, here in measure 12, we get this G major arpeggio, except we start on a D, then we skip up to G, skip up that 4th, finger 1, 2, then up a 3rd, finger 3, up a 3rd to finger 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. Now your turn. Good. And then once we make it up to that high D, what happens next? Look at the next 4 notes. Then we just step down to G. Then finger 3 has to cross over to F sharp, step down, skip up. Now it looks like it steps down to F, but is that correct? No, we had an F sharp before in the same measure, so we're still F sharp. That sharp lives the whole measure. So we go back to F sharp. So pause the video, and I'd like you to work on measures 12 and 13. Practice that a few times until you feel confident, then press play to go on. Now the last note of measure 13, we just played an E with finger 2. Now looking in measure 14, we play an E again, but this time with finger 4. We have to shift. Why is that? Well, look at the next 3 notes. We've got 4 notes stepping down here, so we need to switch to finger 4 so we don't run out. And then finger 5 has to shift to D because now we have 5 notes stepping down. So 4 is on E, step down, 5 on D, step down to G. So now press pause and practice measures 14 and 15, which brings us to the end of the A section. And then press play, and we'll work on it together. Now, in my experience, measures 12 through 15 are the trickiest measures in the A section. So, the next time you sit down to practice Sonatina in C major, I encourage you to go straight to measure 12 and practice this maybe 10 times every day first, and then practice the rest of it, and that will make this part, which could feel really hard, will start to make this feel like the easy part. One little trick I learned from one of my own piano teachers is to take a difficult passage like this and use this technique called repeating notes. Instead of playing it normal, take each note and repeat every single note 4 times in a row like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm just taking every note and playing it 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And I'll go through the whole section this way. And then I'll do the whole thing with 3 repeats on every note. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Then I'll do this again with 2 repeats on every note. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then I'll go back to playing it normal. And it will be like magic. My fingers will suddenly know how to play it a lot better. It will just feel easy. When you're doing the repeating notes, it's very important to stay relaxed. Don't get like really tense, fingers flying in the air. Your hand should look totally limp and relaxed as you do this. Okay, good finger shape, relaxed, loose wrist. And also make sure that you're playing each note with the correct finger. If you aren't training the correct fingers on each note, it will get very tricky as you try to play this faster. Eventually, you want to be able to play it nice and fast. Remember, our tempo is allegro. So that's the final speed we're going for. You can also use that repeated note technique here in measure 7. 4 notes on every note, 4 repeats on every note, then 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then normal. It's a great technique that I love to use for these harder passages. Let's listen to the entire A section once, right hand alone. Great work today learning the right-hand part for the A section of the first movement of Clementi's Sonatina in C major. Happy practicing and see you at our next lesson. Hey, want to play Star Wars with me? Sure, I'll be Princess Leia. Okay, I'll be Luke. Let's go to Imagination Land. Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? Huh? Oh, the uniform. I'm Luke Scuba Walker. I'm here to rescue you. You're who? I'm here to rescue you. I've got your R2 unit. I'm here with Ben Cannoli. Cannoli? Isn't that an Italian pastry? Just come on.